The construction of the sigma through the deconstruction of the pickup artists. Evolution of male seduction culture in the age of artificial intelligence. Introduction. The pickup artist, or PUA, community emerged as a cultural phenomenon during the 1990s, when young men began seeking systematic strategies to improve their romantic and sexual success through learned seduction techniques. Figures like Jeffries, DeAngelo, Erich von Markovic, and Neil Strauss became the undisputed icons of that movement. However, this subculture, which boomed through the 2000s, eventually declined, fading almost completely from the digital spotlight. Paul Thomas Anderson's film Magnolia perfectly captured, in narrative form, both the appeal and credibility of PUAs, but it also carried an implicit warning: time and age eventually undermine any technique, no matter how polished, when the social context changes. Today, this space, which refused to die completely, has evolved into a new paradigm, where concepts like Sigma masculinity, self-development, and Stoic/ethical self-improvement have become the new sources of indirect seduction. At the same time, social phenomena like #MeToo, the fourth wave of feminism, the woke movement, and trends such as MGTOW or Incels have drastically reshaped the cultural and media landscape, influencing how this type of content is perceived. This analysis explores why PUA channels have mostly vanished from platforms like YouTube, how the concepts of masculinity and seduction have evolved, and why figures like Hugh Hefner remain an exceptional case within this same spectrum. 1. The rise of the PUAs. In the 1990s and early 2000s, the PUA industry was thriving. Systematic methods emerged, such as Erich von Markovic's mystery method and Jeffries' speed seduction, both relying heavily on NLP, rapport building, body language, and psychological manipulation. The target audience consisted mainly of young men between 18 and 30, eager to acquire social and flirting skills. PUAs operated in semi-underground clubs, workshops, online forums, blogs, and later YouTube, where they sold courses and published books compiling their techniques. Back then, the mix of charisma, psychology, and social opportunity made PUAs hugely influential, and, to many, unbeatable. Success was measured by the number of conquests and perceived social status, often showcased in hidden camera videos that displayed their game in action. Ironically, those same videos, which built their fame, ended up being their downfall. 2. The fall. 2.1. Shadowbanning and digital censorship. With the growth of YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, and the rise of cancel culture and political correctness, content policies became far stricter. PUA practices began to be labeled as predatory, violating privacy and dignity, and accused of sexual manipulation, coercion, or harassment. Algorithms started demonetizing and burying any content that involved open flirting, even when it was purely narrative or educational. Studies like the monetization of toxicity, analyzing YouTube content creators and controversy-driven engagement, 2024, show how platforms penalize overt seduction or aggressive attraction content to protect advertisers and avoid social backlash. This created a shadowban effect. Previously viral videos suddenly lost reach, stopped appearing in feeds, and tanked in visibility. As a result, most PUA creators either disappeared or pivoted toward more generic self-improvement and lifestyle topics. 2.2. The paradigm shift, from alpha to sigma. The alpha male, dominant, visible, and status-obsessed, stopped being the leading archetype. In his place rose the sigma male, independent, introspective, and less dependent on external validation. The sigma mindset focuses on self-improvement, inner strength, and autonomy as the true sources of attraction. The idea is that by becoming a high-value man, mentally, emotionally, and financially, relationships naturally become deeper and more genuine. Examples of successful sigma-aligned creators: charisma on command, 6.9M subs, charisma, social dynamics, personal magnetism. Improvement pill, 3.7M subs, habits, mindset, and male growth. Alpha M, Aaron Marino, 6.9M subs, confidence, fashion, and modern masculinity. The Sigma model is uncancelable. It frames attraction as a byproduct of personal mastery rather than external conquest. And in a world where even approaching a woman without consent can carry social, legal, or algorithmic risks, this approach protects men while offering them the same psychological reward that the old PUA world promised. 2.3. Time and aging. Perhaps the most decisive factor in the collapse of the classic PUA era is simply time. Jeffries, Neil Strauss, DeAngelo, and Erich von Markovic, once 30-something playboys, are now pushing 60. Their old audience, men aged 18 to 25, sees the world very differently today. Even the best techniques lose impact when the messenger no longer matches the social or visual context. A 60-year-old man picking up barely legal women, even if consensual, simply reads as grotesque in modern eyes. What once seemed daring or charismatic now feels creepy or socially tone-deaf. 2.4. Social movements and modern culture. E2, 2017 present, exposed sexual misconduct, holding public figures accountable, and reframing manipulation as abuse. Fourth wave feminism emphasizes gender equality, consent, and the critique of coercive sexualization. Woke culture heightens sensitivity around power, privilege, and ethical behavior. These movements have intensified both the social and algorithmic penalties against explicit PUA-style content and completely shifted the conversation around male seduction. 3. The Hugh Hefner exception. Hugh Hefner was never a PUA per se, but he lived his entire life surrounded by Playboy bunnies and young women, and yet, he was never truly cancelled. Why? Status and wealth. Unlike PUAs who operated in the public eye without institutional backing, Hefner was a media mogul. The Playboy brand legitimized his lifestyle. Aspirational narrative, his luxury, power, and image of effortless abundance created a fantasy that social media later inherited. Women wanted to be around him, he didn't need to approach anyone. Historical context, by the time he died in 2017, he was seen more as a relic of the 1950s-70s, a bygone era that tolerated large age gaps and media-driven objectification. 4. The digital evolution, the modern landscape. Today, male seduction expresses itself mainly through self-improvement channels, charisma, style, mindset, and confidence. Short-form platforms, TikTok and YouTube Shorts reward aspirational and educational content, not overt pickup tactics. The Sigma narrative, ethical, introspective, and brand safe, appealing to younger and older audiences alike. This rebranding offers monetization opportunities, courses, sponsorships, merch, without triggering the backlash that doomed classic PUA content. 5. Peripheral movements, MGTOW versus Incels. MGTOW, men going their own way, men who voluntarily step away from traditional dating to focus on personal freedom and growth, often influenced by the red pill philosophy. Incels, involuntary celibates, men who feel extreme frustration over romantic failure, often turning resentful or radicalized. Key difference, MGTOW is voluntary and typically non-violent. Incel subcultures can foster misogyny and social hostility. Both reflect how shifting norms and social media ecosystems shape male identity and sexual frustration in the modern age. 6. Sociological reflection. The PUA era faded due to a mix of shadowbanning, paradigm shifts, aging creators, and generational turnover. Movements like Me Too, fourth wave feminism, and woke culture redefined what's acceptable in relationships and male behavior. The Sigma male and ethical self-improvement channels represent the adaptive evolution of male charisma within these new constraints. The core lesson, technique alone isn't enough. Context, ethics, and narrative define social and digital relevance today. 7. Conclusions. Classic PUAs were products of their time, unbeatable techniques in permissive, pre-digital contexts. Any attempt to revive that model today must adapt to new sociocultural realities, audience sensitivities, and platform policies. Sigma masculinity and ethical self-improvement aren't the natural evolution of PUAs, they're what's marketable and survivable in the algorithmic, woke-dominated internet. The Hefner comparison exposes society's hypocrisy. Status and framing can protect behaviors that would otherwise be condemned. Movements like MGTOW and Incels show how fragmented the male community has become, and how different psychological responses emerge to the same cultural pressure. Any attempt to teach or discuss seduction today must align with modern platform rules, audience sensibilities, ethical credibility of the creator. In the end, male attraction and charisma remain relevant, but the way they're taught and expressed has been radically restricted by the new social and algorithmic order.